Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Ted Rall. John Kiriakou is joining me. We are here for the DeProgram show. We're going to have something exciting. We're going to figure out regular, normal times to broadcast this live. So for people who like to watch live and participate in the live chat, there will be a predictable time. We will announce that next week, and you'll be able to plan your whole life around us. You know, quit your job, get a new job. Anyway, it's Thursday, May 22nd, and thanks for joining us. So, John, I think
Ted, I've got to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I think your sound is not good, and I'm hoping it's not my connection, but it sounds kind of like an accordion playing.
Oh, that's not good.
That's not good. Now you sound okay.
You sound okay to me.
Okay, good. Well, let me tell you, we were going to start with this Israeli embassy double murder. It looks like it might be just me. Okay, let me know if my sound cuts out, and I'll figure something out. But anyway, right. Last night, 2 Israeli embassy staff members were murdered outside of a museum I had never heard of, the National Jewish Museum. I've lived in Washington for 43 years. I've never heard of this museum, but
that's strange.
They were coming out. Yeah, and a guy named Elias Rodriguez was apparently waiting for someone to come out. They weren't specifically targeted. He apparently planned to shoot the first people that came out of the museum. These were 2 Israeli embassy staff members. He killed them both. They were apparently soon to be engaged to be married, and he shouted "Free, free Palestine" as they were taking him away. And just a moment ago, I got a push notification from the New York Times saying that he's been arraigned and charged with first-degree murder ×2. And he shouted in court, "I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza." You know, I'll tell you too, Ted, the one thing that has really surprised me about this is reading the comments on the Washington Post article and the comments at Unilad, which is an online kind of light news service. There are no pro-Israeli comments, period. There just are none. People are saying things like thoughts and prayers, or this was 3,000 years in the making, or that's okay because right after they were getting married, they were going to go look for property in the West Bank. It's of course wrong to murder, right? We yell about the Israelis all the time. This is just as wrong, but I understand why it happened. And when I say that, I hope people understand me. I condemn this double killing unreservedly, but I understand why the anger, the fury boiled over.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, this is not like, if we're trying to emancipate the people of Palestine, this is not the way you do it. Now, I have to admit, I would have different feelings if the victim were a high-ranking IDF general, and I would feel like that was
I would agree.
A legitimate target. These are low-level embassy staffers. They're nobodies, and you can certainly argue that nobody should work for the state of Israel. But I mean, really, in the real world, these are what they used to call in World War II the little fish, very little fish, minnows.
Yes.
And so it doesn't do any good. It feeds into the narrative of Bibi Netanyahu and his government, and it says, you know, who they've been crowing. Here we go. This is the anti-Semitism we've been talking about. There's no evidence whatsoever that Mr. Rodriguez, if he is indeed the killer, is anti-Semitic at all. All we know is that he favors the liberation of Palestine. And it's irresponsible to suggest otherwise. He may well be anti-Semitic, and if so, I'll talk about that.
Yeah, we don't know anything about this guy.
No, we don't know anything. So, but you know, just last week, John, I wrote my syndicated column was with the headline, "How Zionism causes or encourages anti-Semitism. And to me, this is almost like an illustration of it, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
literally,
Ted.
it's like that's it literally, when you if you conflate anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, and then you operate behind the scenes to like basically have people deported, you have them, their diplomas removed, they're expelled, they're suspended, their lives are ruined, and it seems like, and then, or you have like shadowy campaign donors. Donors to colleges and universities calling behind the scenes and getting campus groups banned and so on. It feeds into these classic anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about like Jewish conspiracies. So it's, it really is dangerous to Jews. I mean, these Zionists are dangerous. They're a menace to Jews. And a lot of Jews get that, and they don't like it. And I mean, and I know quite a few who really don't care for it. And
Ted, not the last time I was in New York, which was yesterday when I saw you, but the time before, a few weeks earlier, I had lunch with a buddy of mine in some nice restaurant, and there was a table next to us of two elderly women, turned out to be both in their early 80s. They looked much younger, but they were listening to our conversation. And of course, we were talking about Gaza and the West Bank, and these lunatics who are members of the Israeli parliament, or I'm sorry, the Israeli cabinet. And one of them said, "Excuse me, I couldn't help but to overhear your conversation." She said, "We're both Jewish, and what you're talking about is exactly what we fear. We fear that Benjamin Netanyahu and the right-wing extremists that he surrounds himself with are pushing the world into anti-Semitism. It's not that Palestinians are anti-Semitic, which of course they're very Semitic, but that's a whole different conversation." She said that Netanyahu has led the country so far to the right that the rest of the world is turning against it. And it's easy to transition from being anti-Zionist to being anti-Semitic. And that's exactly what they fear. And I said, I have to agree. It would never even occur to me that it would not have occurred to me 20 years ago that we would be in this position where the Israeli government is so right-wing that it might actually lead to its own destruction.
Yeah, it's funny, right, that you mentioned that. Like, I remember up until, like you say, about 20 years ago, my take, and I'd been to Israel a number of times, was like, I would come back and I'd say, their government, and back then, was far to the right of where Israeli society was. I felt like, probably half of the Israeli people really wanted to see an independent, free Palestinian sovereign state.
Sure.
They wanted to live.
So they don't have to deal with it anymore. Exactly.
But also there were a lot of liberal Israelis who just generally felt like it was the right thing, and it's the fair thing, and it's what needed to happen. And I mean, that those people are still there, but there's fewer of them. The government has pulled them to the right. The situation's been radicalized. No doubt October 7th radicalized the situation more. War makes societies stupid, as we saw after 9/11. So people just become idiots. And it's really frightening. And I wonder at some point, when will this stop? I mean, Netanyahu, he's corrupt. He's
on his face.
Terrible prime minister. If you only care about the state of Israel and its future, and you want the state of Israel to be successful, Netanyahu is not helping.
Got that right. And this is a guy who's been prime minister longer than any other person in the history of Israel, and he has never won more than 27% of the vote. Never. Now that's crazy. Of course, attributed to the fact that Israel has so many political parties and such. But if that is absolutely correct. Who wrote that? Rofi. Thank you for that. That is absolutely correct. APAC, just for my own curiosity, Ted, I started doing some research into APAC, and APAC was this like it was like this fringe lobby group from when it was founded in the 1950s until the early 1970s. Nobody paid any attention to it. It wasn't terribly busy on Capitol Hill. And then when Richard Nixon guaranteed the security of Israel, everything changed. And it changed right under our noses, and people didn't even notice it. I gave a speech at the biggest conservative synagogue in Manhattan back in 2011. Tehereth Jeshurun, it was called. Gigantic place on Park Avenue, no less. And it just happened to be what was called Israel Bond Day. I had never heard of this, but every year, once a year, one Saturday, in every synagogue in America, they sell bonds. And the bonds, they're Israeli government bonds that are used to supplement the funding of the IDF. So in the 30 minutes before my speech, where the rabbi got up and said, "Oh, today's Israel Bond Day. Pull out your checkbooks, everybody. Let's buy some bonds and help the IDF." $500,000 in the 30 minutes that we were waiting for people to finish writing their checks. Wow. $500,000. Okay, this is one synagogue. Now imagine this is happening in every synagogue in America and Canada on the same day.
That's crazy.
And then on top of that, you've got the billionaires that are financing APAC, and then you've got the campaign contributions coming from APAC that essentially buy most of America's politicians, at least at the federal level. It's just not a good situation at all, and I'm not sure how we go back from this.
Well, it's the blank check, right? No nation state should get a blank check from the United States of America.
And if I were president, that would be the first thing I'd say. Yes.
And why is the IDF, begging for cash when they're getting when they're getting part of the $4 billion a year from the U.S.
Yeah.
in foreign aid.
And the IDF
that's not going to healthcare.
No, the IDF advertises on TV in Florida. Call this toll-free number and show your support for Israel. I never saw such a thing. I happen to be in Miami and they're running these TV ads. Call this number with your credit card and support the IDF. It's like, are you kidding me?
It's bizarre.
It is.
Yeah. It's like, I don't.
Yes.
Can you imagine, I don't call this number and support the national armed military of Bolivia. Like, what? Why?
Yeah, it's like, what? What are you talking about?
Come on, you're Bolivian. You love Bolivia. Support our right to defend ourselves against the Colombians. What?
Yeah.
Very strange. And so it's interesting to me that obviously news out of Gaza is never unfortunately a dull moment. A dull moment would be a beautiful thing at this point. But this news hit just as really credible reports of mass starvation are starting to.
Yes.
They're all over the place. They're unavoidable. They're all over mainstream media. It's not just the Gaza Health Ministry. It's the AP, it's the New York Times, it's the Guardian. Children are dying of starvation, and this is because Israel won't allow food, medical aid, water, fuel into the Gaza Strip. It's been months. Trucks are
Yes.
sitting there. I don't even know, by the way, how the trucks, what kind of food it is that it's able to maybe even survive all this time waiting unrefrigerated, presumably. I guess it's dry goods, I assume. But still, and I think the Israelis are starting to feel a little bit of heat here. At a certain point,
the heat is coming from the Europeans.
Yes.
It's the British, the French, the Germans that are saying, hey, you guys have gone too far. We're going to freeze aid right now until you let this food in. That has not been enough to force the Israelis to actually let the food in. They've let in two trucks to feed 2 million people. The Irish have had the guts to stand up and break relations with, I don't know if they broke relations so much as they froze relations and asked the Israeli ambassador to leave. But the Israelis aren't going to do anything until Donald Trump tells them enough is enough. And I'm not seeing that happening.
although there's certainly some, there's some word behind the scenes that Donald Trump seems to no longer quite be marching to Bibi's drummer.
Yes.
He's probably, I mean, by most accounts, right, the rumor mill is that Netanyahu's an unpleasant, very demanding partner to American leaders. And that doesn't seem like a recipe made to work with the Donald.
Yes.
And, I mean, I think the Donald probably feels quite rightly that he's done quite a bit for Israel already. He moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, something that the hardliners have wanted for years. He's sent them tons of money. But I think he has kind of, he's a showman, and he knows that the optics of what he seems to be supporting are really bad. And it's the same really bad that Joe Biden, who is now lies completely discredited